Ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. It's a conversation that must be had today and not tomorrow. Welcome to another episode of I'm Listening, I'm Ready with your host, Andrew E. Guy. Let's talk about it.
All right, guys, this is Andrew Guy with the podcast that is dedicated to those who are on the go. I am pumped. You know this every week when I come and I bring it. I bring the energy. Most of you are saying, Andrew, what are you on? What exercise are you doing? You got to tell me because I don't know why you're so pumped. I am pumped about people. And if you want to know what's happening, I am from a Jamaican descent. Most of my people, as we say back home, big up, big up. We're energetic, we always happy about something, and that's what we do. Today on the show of I'm Listening, I Am Ready. If you're joining me for the first time, it is the podcast dedicated to those who are on the go. Whether you're traveling by land, the air, or sea, this is me, Andrew E. Guy, in the MORNING. I am sitting, I am talking, I am conversating with a man that you have got to hear his story. We have so much in common, it's unreal. We both majored in biology. I went to Southern Arkansas University, have my degree in biology. So we have a plethora of science background knowledge, okay? So that's amazing also. We're both from Jamaica. He's a leader. I'm a leader. We're thought leaders. My God, ladies and gentlemen, let me just be quiet. I want to introduce to you my good friend, Mr. David Mullins. David, talk to the people. Tell them who you are.
Andrew, your energy, turn up, I love it, I love it. This is a great way to start a day, man. This energy is infectious. So I am David Mullings, born and raised in Jamaica, based in the United States between Orlando and Miami now. I'm the founder, chairman, and CEO of Mahoe Capital Partners. I currently have a private investment firm that's building a portfolio of public and private equities in the Caribbean. With the goal of going public in the US and giving US retail investors easy access to a region that we think is very overlooked when it comes to investing and creating wealth. So that's who I am, that's what I'm doing, and I'm excited to share with you today.
Awesome, awesome. But just even on the tip of that, Blue Mahoe, that's the Jamaican national tree.
Exactly, and most people don't realize that. The Jamaicans get it, the Americans don't know. And so when I was coming up with a name, I wanted a name that was Jamaican without being blatantly Jamaican.
Correct.
But it also, for me, signifies our long-term mindset towards investing, right? Wow. You plant a seed, you have to water it over time, and it can grow into a tree. Warren Buffett, who I love, Warren Buffett said that, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree many years ago. And it happens as well that the Blue Mahoe tree is one of the fastest growing trees in the world, but is a sturdy hardwood. So we want to be a fast growing investment firm, but we want to be here for the long term.
Wonderful. Hey, if that's what's happening over there, we definitely going to have to get together on this because, I'm also looking about doing some investments and so forth. So look at this. This is not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, the art of the show is I am listening and I am ready, because you can be listening. And as I said before, there's a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing basically is because you have the faculties of the ears and the auditory nerve. But listening, as I've always said, is a skill. Not everybody has it. It is a skill. David, I am telling you, man, I'm really excited. And want to talk a bit about your experience just in beginning or starting the Blue Mahoe, and what was the driving force? I know you gave us a small overview, but what was the driving force?
Yeah, so it really started when I was serving on the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board. This is 8-9 years ago. Diaspora Advisory Board, for those who don't know, Jamaica started this roughly in 2003, 2004, where we would have an official board with individuals from the US, Canada, and UK, 3 from the US, 2 from Canada, 2 from the UK, who would advise the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and the Prime Minister. I was the first future leaders representative for the US, representing Jamaicans under the age of 35. That's what we consider young. And the head of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Marley Street Forest, had asked me to actually present at their January event, their annual Jamaica Stock Exchange conference. Specifically to say, how do we get Jamaicans in the diaspora to invest back into Jamaica? Not just send money via remittances, not just donations, but invest. And so I presented 5 simple rules. I said, number 1, We in the diaspora don't trust the government. We don't want a diaspora bond. We want a private sector led initiative. So that's number one. Number two, it had to be run by a Jamaican in the diaspora with investment experience who also traveled to Jamaica more often than most of us who have moved, right? We have some people who run well left yard. We need to change that. Number three, though, is that it would have to be partnered with a Jamaican financial institution that was known and trusted in the diaspora. Number four, as much as we trust the Jamaican court system, it's slow. We have to be honest, it's slow, it's inefficient. So it needed to be domiciled in the US, Canada, or UK, preferably under US securities law. But fifth and final was that it had to be available to retail investors. It couldn't just be the rich man with the $100,000. It couldn't just be open to accredited investors. So not a hedge fund, not a private equity fund, not time, or one of the best performing stock exchanges in the entire world. In fact, Jamaica was the best stock exchange in terms of performance over 5 years at the end of 2019. Ho Chi Minh Index, Vietnam was second, the US was third. And he said, David, we only focus on the US, but Jamaica so well, you're Jamaican, you should launch it. I spoke with some additional people and they pushed me to launch it. They said, you should do it. You're so passionate about it. You're connected in both worlds. You work for Jamaica National in Jamaica. You work with a hedge fund. You work with private equity. You should launch it. Finally, sat down with Michael Leachin, who I've known now for 7 years, and Mike really pushed me last June to dive in full speed and scale. So that's what presented opportunity. There's no exchange traded fund with exposure to Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, even though they have exposure to frontier markets like Pakistan. Seriously, Sri Lanka. Well, Jamaica is right here. So that's what prompted. I want to solve that problem. Allow the man with $10, the woman with $100 to invest, not just the person with $10,000 or $100,000.
And that's talking about looking at the whole hand as opposed to the thumb.
Yes.
Because
exactly.
Like we know from a spiritual perspective that, it says, the Bible said, every joint supplieth, right? And a lot of times that we will just look at the people who may have the monies or have the funds, who will have the connection. But how do we encourage those ones who have a thought, but may not know that there's a particular way, that may not know that there are resources that they can basically access so they can get in the game, so to speak. So I like what you're saying is that you're giving them an opportunity to get into the game. And that's amazing because many investment doors are shut.
And many of them are shut. And on top of that, even if you get in, you have to trust that the person managing the portfolio has the right temperament, the right outlook. So in our case, we've studied Warren Buffett, worked obviously with Michael Leachin on putting together this investment strategy. And Mike has been a really good advisor. I've been studying Buffett since I was 18 years old. And so the idea is we need to be investing for the long term. So we're thinking 10 years and further out. And in addition to that, we're not just doing publicly traded companies. We're doing private companies because that's what Buffett has done with Berkshire Hathaway. So what would a Berkshire Hathaway only investing in the Caribbean look like? And so that's what we've set up to build with Blue Mahoe. And that's the goal, is that you can trust that we have a long-term outlook and we have the temperament, right? The stock market can drop this month, right? Don't bother me. We expect that. We understand if you own a piece of a business over the long term, you're inevitably going to hit air pockets. You're going to hit potholes. In the game.
So what I like about Warren Buffett, I remember the time when he went and he bought that railroad, the train. A lot of people were saying, okay, it's like, okay, what are you doing? Like, dude, what are you going to become a conductor now? This is crazy. And he just kind of looked at everyone. He sat there, with his glasses kind of sunk down over his nose. And it's like, okay, if you see what I see, I can look at his face again. And what I've learned from him is simply this, and he does this. There's a little show that he does that my son watches all the time. I don't remember the name of it. It's a cartoon, and the
cartoon one is the Secret Millionaires Club.
That's it. And he brings on all these different guys, Shaquille O'Neal, and all these guys, and he having these conversations. And one of the conversation that really struck me was when he was talking about how do we manage our money? How do we make not good decision? Right decision. And I like the word right because in my book, Work Your Words, we talk about right versus good versus better versus best. because good, better, and best are all comparative, right? And they will change over time. Right, meaning that if it's right for me, it's going to work for me, and it's going to work for everyone who else is involved in that project, right? So I'm looking at the benefit of the human person I'm interacting with.
No, man, I love that you bring that up and the way you put it, because some of us were raised that practice makes perfect.
Right.
I was raised that that's wrong. This is I did swimming lessons in Jamaica. Waterloo is where it was. Mr. Lopez would say to us that, if you practice the wrong thing, you'll perfect the wrong thing. So if you say good, better, best, I could become the best person at doing the wrong thing.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. So you need to have intentional practice and practicing the right thing.
Correct.
Which means you need a coach who can help to correct you.
Correct.
So you know what you're doing wrong. So I love that you point that out. It's not about being good, better, or best. It's about right or wrong.
Correct.
Then go from there.
Correct. This is great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening for the first time, this is Andrew Guy with I'm Listening, I'm Ready in the MORNING. Today's guest is Mr. David Mullins from Mahoe Capital Investment. Listen, this man is full of knowledge. If you are thinking, I shouldn't say if, you better be thinking about doing some kind of long-term investment. And I like the term, I like the name of the business. It's called Blue Mahoe, myself from Jamaica. And I know about these trees. We used to talk about them in grade school. I didn't get a chance to go to school as much as many of you already know my history, and that's another long story. But what I have learned is that this tree is sturdy. It's tough, as we would say back in the day. This is a hurricane. Yeah, man. That tree will bend. It will withstand the pressures and the trials. Any kind of hurricane you throw at that stuff, man, it may split, but it's there. So
it's standing. So and that's important for me. And I love you keep bringing up the whole thinking long term. And
yes,
there has been this whole idea. Leaching, Mike would say to me, I need to always talk about this. That it's people think that investing in the Caribbean is risky, right? There's a perception that small island or hurricane or whatever it is, crime, we can come up with so many reasons. But the reality is that there is wealth being created down there, right? There is obviously the belief that, it's inefficient, so I don't want to invest on there. Well, the most wealth is created when you're transitioning from inefficiency to efficiency. If it's already perfectly efficient, then you pay for perfection.
Correct.
And then lastly, there has to be a lack of equity capital flowing in. So we know that there's a huge opportunity for investment capital to flow into the region as well. And we shouldn't just allow the Chinese and the Spanish and the Mexicans to go in. We in the diaspora should be going in. The black diaspora should be investing in Jamaica as well. And to give an example of perception versus reality, I bring up a simple one that Mike sends me. If you had bought $100,000 worth of shares in NCB, that's the NCB Financial Group, $100,000 in 2002 when Mike purchased the shares, or you could have bought Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, who we all look up to, or you could have stuck it in an index fund that follows the S&P 500.
Right.
As of June 30th, 2020, that $100,000 in the S&P 500 would be worth about $390,000. Wow. So that's a great return. That's through 2008, 2009, and that failure is through all of what's happened now. That would be a good return. If you had bought Berkshire Hathaway, it would have underperformed right now. It would be 372. Right? Buffett has underperformed the last few years.
Right.
He will come back. But 100K to 372 is still great.
Yes. That
same $100,000 invested in NCB, a bank based in Jamaica doing business across the Caribbean, would have been worth $2.8 million as of June 30th, 2020. So the perception is that I don't want to invest in the Caribbean and create wealth there. The reality is that there are people creating wealth in the Caribbean. So if you want to create wealth, you need to be paying attention.
But David, I have to piggyback off this, man. And I was talking about this in a video I just recorded the other day. And we're talking about situation versus the way we think. So situation versus my circumstance. Situation is the reality that everybody see, but my circumstances is how I see myself in the reality of what everyone else is seeing. So I can change my situation based on my circumstantial thinking. It's really amazing. But when you say that there is wealth, it's like, for example, in Jamaica, we know you can put seeds in the ground and that stuff will grow. The land, the soil is rich, it's fertile. Not only that, it reminds me of a story that a speaker once said, that a big company sent 2 salesperson to Africa, right? And one of them came back saying, "Oh, the place is poor. There's poverty everywhere. The people don't even have shoes, and they're living in huts and all this kind of stuff," right? And then the other salesperson came back and said, "No, I saw that, but that wasn't my focus now. So it's perception now." He said, "No, I see an opportunity for us to start a shoe company and sell them shoes, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't have shoes, look for the need, look for something that you can actually see that you can fulfill. And then why don't you fill that instead of looking at the problem?" Same thing with the Chinese coming to Jamaica, building the highways and so forth. They see a way to get in, and instead of getting it from people relation, what they do, they use infrastructure. They come in, if they build a highway, if they build a hotel, they own that industry. They can bring their own people to be working in a land. And just like I've seen on a friend of mine YouTube channel, I think his name is Maya from out of Ghana, and he was talking about how people in Zambia, the original people, are basically foreigners in their own land because everywhere the signs are in Chinese, and that's happening across the globe.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm one of those who don't mind Chinese investment. Right? The highway in Jamaica was started by the French, Boydese, were the first ones that come. Chinese ended up helping to finish the project, but China accounts for far less of Jamaica's investment than the French or the Germans or looking at the United States, Canada, the UK. So we get a lot of foreign direct investment, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We get international knowledge transfer, provided we train our locals. And so that's one of the good things. Look at Grace Kennedy's headquarters that's built now, the new headquarters in downtown Kingston. I got a tour of it last year. And Don Webby pointed out to us that, yes, it was built by the Chinese, but they required that the Chinese hire local Jamaicans to help build it. And not just local Jamaicans. They had to hire some staff from in the inner cities around downtown where Grace Kennedy's headquarters was based. So they were able to create economic opportunity for those people. We have to realize that there's an inefficiency problem. Jamaica's had a productivity problem for the last 30 years. Our productivity growth is flat. It actually hasn't improved versus Trinidad and Tobago is up, Barbados is up. So Jamaica has been uncompetitive in certain ways. We need to change that. So I never forgot, I was visiting a potential office site we were looking at last year in Jamaica, 3-story building near King's House. And I see them using this bucket and a hook to pull the blocks up onto the roof. So I had to ask the guy, I was like, I'm not a construction person, but it just seemed to me that there has to be a faster way to get the blocks up than one by one. Isn't there like a block elevator? And the guy said, Mr. Mullins, actually there is this block elevator we can use. But I've learned over the years in Jamaica that even though it has a certain weight, the guys are going to overload it, they're going to break down. So we're not going to be able to use it. And by the way, we get paid based on hours. So the longer it takes for us to get the blocks up there, the more money the man they're going to get paid. That mentality can't work. So the Chinese workers will not take that, right? Another friend of mine, his family does construction in Jamaica, mainly roadworks and so on. And they said the same thing. The Chinese workers versus some of these Jamaican workers. The Jamaican workers will say to the Chinese workers, hey, why you moving so fast? We get paid hourly. You need to go slower. So we need to have a different attitude towards work. And the Prime Minister Holness has said, bold speed. Jamaica is so proud of having the fastest man, the fastest woman, all these things. How about getting work done the fastest? The faster you get the work done, the sooner you can go to the beach.
That's true. You know what, David? I have been doing for the past couple of months. I've been doing some outdoor adventure stuff, zip lining, all that kind of crazy stuff, mountain biking, trail. I'm from some heights.
Adventure.
But I realized that I don't want to get too complacent. I don't want to get too comfortable. I want to get out there and making sure all these videos have been recorded, but I haven't set them out yet. But what I learned yesterday, I was in a canoe for 5.5 hours.
Wow.
Paddling, right? And there was water everywhere. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm so tired. I'm sore. I want to get out, but I can't get out. And that was a life lesson for me, that sometimes you're going to have to, just like the investment that you're talking about, you're going to have to hang in there when the waves are high or when the water is level, and you have to see the end in mind. And that's what it's about. When we think about our people, we have been conditioned to think, oh, because I'm getting paid hourly, then it takes longer. I should take longer so I get more money. But you can finish that job, right? I'm going to get back to the canoe story. It was a group of us, with 6 canoes on the water. And what it was basically, the faster you get to a checkpoint, the more rest time you get.
So
these other guys were taking their time. We reached there 30, 40 minutes ahead, and we were relaxing, sitting back just like that, waiting for them. It's a life lesson. We take forever to build a building. We can only get one project every 20 years if we are lucky. But if we change our mindset, right, or what our mind is set on, our mind is set on the change, but our mind is not set on wealth. And so we are just nickel and diming our way through life, and we wonder why we are still at the bottom of the bucket.
Oh man, that is such a great analogy. I'm going to use it going forward, and I'm going to quote it, Andrew. That one is, I think that is amazing. And when you look at the performance of countries like Costa Rica, like Singapore, like South Korea, Rwanda, these countries have been through far more than us in some cases.
Yes, they have.
And they've outperformed us. And it's not because they had smarter people. It's not because they were next door to China, or Costa Rica is right here. In fact, we had more land in some cases. We had more people in some cases.
Yes, we do.
We have a resource curse. It's just like if you look at Nigeria or some of these African countries or oil countries, resource curse actually hurts you. The more of the resource you have is the less you care for it, right? If I had a lot of food at home, I wouldn't eat that much. I would throw away scraps, and somebody else would be like, oh my gosh, I could use that. So it's the same way. Jamaica's resource curse was our land. We have so much arable land, and we just took it for granted, versus a country like Singapore that doesn't have arable land said, OMG, we have this massive port. We are centrally located for transshipment, and the only thing we can do is invest in our people. Let's spend money on education, right? South Korea says, we just had a war, everything is decimated, our schools are destroyed. We're going to pick 2 industries and we're going to take on the world. We're going to go into appliances and we're going to go into cars. Look what South Korea has done by having government policy, encourage people to think bigger and say, we can take on the best in the world.
Amazing.
Right? Japan did it. When Japan has Toyota, where was Toyota in the 60s and 70s? And these guys decided, we are going to make TQM, total quality management, or calling card. Our cars are going to last longer, and we're going to do better than GM and better than Ford and better than Chrysler. Toyota is now there. That is the attitude we need to have in Jamaica as well. That's the attitude we need to have in the Caribbean as well.
I think that our people, and I'm going to expound upon what you talked about, is a resource curse. I'm going to say it another way. I think it's a lack of vision. The word says, without a vision, the people perish. A lack of vision and appreciation. It's almost like being in a marriage or being in a relationship, and you take your spouse for granted. I'm already for me, I'm so thankful. I'm 16 years in the making, still have the same wonderful woman, right? But I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal. But what it is basically is these things that I think about. That when we become resource cursed is when we lack appreciation for what we have. We do it as individual, because my background is anatomy and physiology in science, just like we are. And we look at things differently. If we see a resource that is not appreciated, it is now taken for granted. If it's not, if it's abused, then it becomes misuse. And so what we need to do is be like the Moses when God says, hey, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your hand? It's just everyone will see a piece of stick. But he said, no, stretch it out. Use it. We are not utilizing the resources that is right in front of us. And that's lack of vision.
I love it, brother. And so you said, talking about vision, which our national anthem says, give us vision, lest we perish. But here's what I would say. I would challenge you to say that Jamaicans don't have vision. Jamaica has had lots of leaders with vision. We've got a lot of people with vision. Guess what, though? We haven't had enough action. We wrote a lovely document called Vision 2030 that laid out how Jamaica could become a place to live, work, do business, and raise a family. And they have not achieved 1/3 of what is written in Vision 2030 that was done by both political parties and public comment and the private sector. So everybody agreed on the vision. But you know what? Nadine Sutherland has action, not a bag of mouth.
Yes.
We need action 2030. I'm done with the vision thing. The vision is there. Action.
But you know, the other part to that, I am going to applaud you on that because I am so with you on that. The other part to that statement was vision, but you have to have a mission. You see, it's mission that makes the vision.
Oh gosh, work. Yep.
Listen, man.
We're on the same page, man. So I talk about that. We talk about this. You need mission, vision, and values. That's how you start anything you're doing. I need a clear mission.
Yes.
I need to know. I need to have the vision of where I want to get to.
Yes.
And then I need to have the values that are going to provide a framework that guide all my decision making to get there. You need those three. Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to me for the first time, you are listening to Andrew E. Guy in the MORNING on the podcast that is dedicated for those who are on the GO, on the go. That means if you're traveling by land, air, or sea, this is me in the MORNING. I am talking to a good friend of mine, a countryman, a visionary. I am so excited. I'm so pumped. I'm trying to stay put on this chair. Do you hear what I'm saying? We're talking about economy. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about mission. We're talking about vision. We're talking about not just writing it down. Let's get it done. Mr. David Mullins, it's been an amazing conversation. All things are possible. I want to thank him so much. I want to thank our viewers. I want to thank our potential sponsors. For those who want to sponsor this podcast, please send the information to my booking manager at David, which is INFO at AndrewGuySpeaks.com. Special thank you to everyone who loves this and comment on this and share it with your people. This is just a great environment for you to grow. Okay, so I'm gonna give Mr. David Mullins the last word so he can say few last things to you guys. And I just want to thank him for being on the show. This is Andrew Guy with I'm Listening, and I am ready. David, take it away. Go.
So what I want to leave you with is some words from Michael Leeson again. Mike, as you can hear from this, is somebody that has had a massive, massive impact on my life. And there's a quote in a magazine interview Mike did that has stuck with me, and I think it will resonate with the audiences. And it says, I was born in an era that gave me an opportunity to own a pair of shoes. Had I been born 250 years ago, I would have been owned. I would have been a slave. So I'm very, very aware that my being here has many factors that I had nothing to do with. So whatever it is you're talking about that you're facing in this time, that adversity you're facing, remember it could have been way worse, and you're blessed to be alive today in 2020. If you start reminding yourself that you are blessed to be alive in 2020 and you have the opportunity to own things instead of be owned, you can get into that abundance mindset and get out of that scarcity mindset. So get into the abundance mindset. Believe that you deserve it. Believe that it is possible. And then work towards it. Believing is not enough. We need that mission. We need that action. So that's what I want to leave you with.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it has been a pleasure sitting and talking to Mr. David Mullins from out of Jamaica. And his mind is in Jamaica and his mind is in the U.S. because he's thinking, how can I connect the two so we can see the abundance that's inside the land of wood and water and speed, right?
Yes.
And connect the wealth so they can understand what's happening. I'm looking forward. We're going to be launching a conference next year for men. And I am looking forward to have Mr. David come up here and just throw some knowledge. And it's going to be a great conference. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a slice. David, thank you so much for your time. All the glitches we had, it was well worth it. It was worth it. So you take care of yourself. Until next time, we'll talk again. All right? I'll see you.
Enough respect.
Big up, my brother. Big up. All right?
Big up.
All right.
Man.
Cool. Say hi to the family, man.
I will say hi to them. Thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate what you're doing for everyone.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right. Man. Take care. Cool. Bye. perfect. So if you have an obstacle, the water finds a way around it. Water finds a path of least resistance. But at the same time, water is soft, splash on our face, but it's also hard. It creates the Grand Canyon. It will cut through that rock over time. It will. It doesn't just go over the obstacle or around it. It will cut through that obstacle eventually.
Yes, it will. And what I noticed, I went to this place. They make dyes. They also make these sort of magnets, neodymium magnets, right?
Okay.
And how they make this magnet, I took my son to this factory. They use water to cut steel.
That is a water blade. That's wow.
They use water to cut steel. We were absolutely blown away by this. And they sat there with Daddy, are you serious? Serious. And the guy took us there. I'm actually going to be setting up an interview with him too, right? It's called, the guy is from Job Master, and wow. And make these magnets and send them all over the world. And it was amazing to see the power of water. Water is amazing, man.
I love it. All right, perfect. So I see it recorded. This thing is finally going.
Yes,
this is your show, and
it's our show. We're participating in this, and as a fellow Jamaican, born and raised, it's so great, man, to be sitting down and having this conversation with you. And I know there's going to be many more as we move.
Many more.
Yes.
No, man, thank you so much, Andrew, for inviting me on, man. I really appreciate it.
It's going to be great. We have a lot more to talk about, and I know this is not going to be the only episode. There's going to be a lot more for us to get into because there's so
man.
Let me go ahead and get everything set up here. Get our questions and everything. Everything is lit. Everything is ready to rock and roll.
Man.
And I'm so glad that we had that issue.
yes. Hey, patience. We're going to talk about that. It taught me one again. It reminded me how important patience is. Why you can't get too frustrated. But everything always works out in the end.
Yes.
For the better.
And the thing is that what I've always asked myself, and I also learned this from Bruce Lee, is like, what am I supposed to be learning here? In this moment, in this time? What am I supposed to be learning here? Because every obstacle, every moment in time, we're supposed to be learning something.
That's true. What is the lesson? Instead of complaining about something happening, stop and say, what is the lesson from this experience?
Exactly, because we miss the entire lesson because we're busy grumbling. We're busy complaining. All right?
Yes.
But I'm excited about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go into it right now. We're going to start. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andrew Guy with the Andrew Guy Podcast. I am listening and I am ready. That's exactly what we're talking about. I said, I'm listening and I am ready. I got an exciting guest here today, Mr. David Mullins. And there's just so much to talk about. Just getting started in itself is a show. Because so many technological things that could go wrong, that went wrong, but all of those were life lessons, right?
100%.
I'm excited because we are both Jamaican descendants. I am from Jamaica, his parents from Jamaica. And how we met was that's just going to be another show. I promise it's going to be another show. But we met on LinkedIn and I saw him and I said, okay, Mullins, this name Mullins is just something about it. And I looked it up and I said, let me reach out to him. I said, are you associated with so-and-so and so? And one thing led to the next, and here we are talking. I sent him out an invite to be on the show, and he is here. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. David Mullins to the show. David.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Live and direct.
Yes.
Big up.
Yes. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go and I'm going to hit our intro, and we're going to start our intro, and you'll hear a little music playing in the back, and then after that marks the official starting of the segment. All right? So let's rock.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. It's a conversation that must be had today and not tomorrow. Welcome to another episode of I'm Listening, I'm Ready with your host, Andrew E. Guy. Let's talk about it. Until next time, keep listening, live ready, talk soon.